right. This is already so good. Like, I'm so excited seeing people's faces. Now I'm like, why did I wait so long to do this? Like, this is so much better.
Yes, Jean.
I was afraid of Zoom bombers. I was afraid it would be a big mess, but now I'm just like, oh, this is so much better to see everybody's faces. Because it's weird talking into the void when you're doing this hour-long thing and it's just like one way. And yeah, I'm getting the questions and text, but it's just this one-way thing. It's like, it's kind of taxing. And now it's like, I don't know, this is great seeing everybody's faces.
You still want us to mute, right?
Yeah. Well, now I don't want to turn it over to Jess. Now I'm like, wait, I'm turning this over to my friend. Like, I want to keep doing this.
Price stays the same. Jess is out.
Maybe I'll let Jess run it, but then I'll just still show up, but I'll just be like a participant.
Hi, Jean.
Hello.
Hey, Jean.
Hello, Jean.
How's everybody? I need to close my door. Hold on.
Oh, good.
So
this is like the diehard group right here. Like the four of you, Virginia's here. We're getting on. You guys are part of the committed elect group. I got to come up with a name for that, for people who are like the most committed. And
Elenia is also in that group.
Hmm?
Elenia is also in our group.
Yeah, Elenia. Yeah, I mean, they're probably, I'd say there are at least 7 or 8 more people in this group, but there's kind of this diehard core to the group that just shows up every single time. We're emailing back and forth. We're talking a bunch. And then there are like 40 people that I never hear from. Even if I email them, like they don't respond. I'm like, hey, you paid money. Like, let's do this.
This is so common. Absolutely common.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I do this too. I signed up for, I missed Amy Porterfield's course building. What's it called? Anyway, the course building thing that she does. It's $2,000. I didn't do it last year, or I didn't do it the year before last year. And then I wanted to do my course. And I was like, all right, I'm going to sign up. I'm going to commit. I'm going to do this. And I signed up. I paid my $2,000. I didn't show up for a single thing she did because I was so busy with the workbook and everything else. I was like, I'm not ready for the course. I can't do the course. I got to focus on the workbook and everything else. I didn't show up for a single thing. I didn't respond to a single email. I didn't do a single task. And then like I got the notice saying, hey, our course is over. That was great. Thank you all. We're locking the Facebook group. And I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. I just paid $2,000. I didn't even do anything. Hey, Amy.
Hi, Amy.
Hello. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Amy. Hi.
Hi.
Isn't this fun actually seeing faces here?
Yeah.
I got to turn my light on here.
All right. We've got Elenia and Jamin. Hey, Virginia. Looks like you're driving. Well, not driving. You're on your way home or something.
Next to. She can talk.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to have other people jumping on here, I'm sure, in a second. So let's get started. Well, first of all, I'm not going to rehash the entire email that I sent out about changes coming to the masterclass, but I do want to answer any questions that anybody has or take any feedback that anybody has. I still want to show up in these, but Jess already runs the mastermind groups that I have. So I've been watching him for the past almost year run the masterminds. He's also been my executive coach for the past, 4 or 5 years or so. And he's so good at this stuff. He doesn't, like, if you ask him a technical question about Amazon KDP or hybrid publishers or something like that, he's probably not going to know the answers the way that I know the answers. But if you ask a question like, how do I decide what the right title is for my book, or how should I structure my chapters, like that kind of feedback, I would say he's like 10 times better than I am. Like, his ideas are so good when it comes to the content and crafting the actual book and the message of the book. And anyway, so I think you're all going to love Jess. Man, I really don't want to stop doing these, but at the same time, this is like this is how I can make things better, is by bringing somebody else in to help me out so I can focus on the workbook and focus on the other things that I want to do to support the group. So are there any questions or any feedback from that email that I sent out? Anything that anybody wants to bring up and talk about? And just go. We have a small enough group that you can just jump in and say it.
It's going to be every other week, or is it going to be the first and third or second and fourth of the month?
So it's every other week. And just like with, yeah, so I know that means that you'll have to remember, like, did we do it last week or was that the week before? But just like always, we're going to send out an email every single time, letting you know that it's happening a day or two before. And it's going to get posted in the Facebook group a day or two before every single time that we're going to have one.
Okay. And is that Wednesday one going to be recorded?
It will be recorded just like these.
Okay, good. Okay. And
Josh, I have a question.
Yep.
So you said we can move to the masterclass. By the way, masterclass and mastermind are very confusing. You need to change the names.
Yeah.
So you said that anything that we paid can go towards the masterclass. So we can
Toward
just
the mastermind, yes. Sorry. Yes, it is confusing. Case in point.
and therefore how long is the mastermind, or you just get to as many months as you want?
So the mastermind is a structured 6-month program, whereas the masterclass is join anytime you want, wherever you're at, go as long as you want. You can stay in the masterclass for 5 years or 2 months or whatever you want. The mastermind is a 6-month program. And the reason why is with this masterclass, I'm hoping that this masterclass grows to 500 people being in here, and we're helping everybody regardless of where they're at. With the mastermind, it's going to be a group of 10 people, and you're going to get to know those people well. And we don't want people just jumping into a group and jumping out of a group. And so we structured that to be a 6-month program, 10 people, at least 5 people, a maximum of 10 people. And it's going to get, with that structure, it's going to be, all right, everybody is moving along, everybody's making progress. We're keeping tabs on exactly where everybody's at in that mastermind and moving everybody towards publishing their book within 6 months. So it's not the right fit if somebody says, I'm going to take a year to write my book. Don't join the mastermind. It's not the right fit. It's a 6-month program. If it's, I need to write my book in the next month, don't join the mastermind. It's not the right fit. But if it's, yeah, 6 months is a good timeline for me, that works. And I want that extra help and that extra accountability and more of the one-on-one coaching, then you go into the mastermind. If it's, like I talked to somebody yesterday and they said, I'm really a self-starter. I just need to be pointed in the right direction and I have questions here and there. That's the type of person I'd say, join the masterclass then, because that's what you get. You get the workbook, you get to ask questions every now and then, and you're a self-starter. So you don't perhaps need that level of accountability that the mastermind provides.
I see. Okay, I'm not sure which one I fit, but I think it's more of a personal question that I can ask you later.
Sure.
I'd like to say something. I just would love, I can't figure out whether that is the mastermind group would be the right group for me. And I have been thinking about actually getting a book coach, just one-on-one book coach. Yep. I would just like to have an opportunity to trial it. And there isn't any opportunity for that. So we either just take this kind of basically very simple version, or we go to this version that's actually going to cost a significant amount of money. And there's doesn't feel like I've got a sense of whether it's right for me or not.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Amy. And let me think on that, because I'm trying to think of a way that you could get exposure to it and see if it's the right fit for you. I think one way might be if we take one of our mastermind groups and maybe ask everybody for permission to record a session, and then we could have a recorded session, and then you could watch it and see like, oh, okay, got it. Yeah, I would love to do that. Or, oh, you know what? No, that's not what I want. That's one thing that we could do that would probably help. But let me think on that, because maybe there's something else that we can do. The hard part is that we do with the mastermind group, it's going to be, it's not just like 10 people sign up, we throw them all in a group. It's going to be more, we have people who sign up for the mastermind, and then Jess and I are going to sit down and say, what would be the best way to structure these groups? Because let's say we have 10 people, but 5 of those people are, I don't know, tech entrepreneurs, and the other 5 are doing like retail entrepreneurship or something. We might say, you know what? We could put all these people in one mastermind, but because we've got 5 tech people and 5 retail people, we're going to divide this into 2 masterminds and put all the tech people in one, so that we can really cater to what they're working on, and all the retail people in this other. So, but then if somebody joins and then they drop out after a month, then it's kind of a bummer for the rest of the people, because it's like we're really trying to create this solid group that people are committed to. So we don't want people coming in and trialing it for 30 days and then like half the group disappears. We want people to be committed before. But yes, I agree. It's nice when you can kind of try it out and do a trial run and taste it. So I'll think more about how we might be able to do that. Do you have any other ideas about how we might be able
Not
to do
yet, but
that?
I might come up with something, but thanks for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think it was you, Amy, who was like, please get a female book coach, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, Jess is not female, but he's
Oh,
great.
yeah, I likes that idea too. Should we put thumbs up on that one?
Yeah. It's a matter of, I have talked to a lot of book coaches. I'm looking at a lot of book coaches. The thing is, I need to develop a relationship of trust with a book coach before I stick them in here and say, hey, I want you to take over this masterclass. I need to get to know those people pretty well. I've known Jess for 4 or 5 years at this point, so I really know him well. I know he can do this really great, better than I do it. And so I know that Jess can do this, which then frees me up to focus on other things, like developing relationships with other book coaches. So I would love nothing more than to have it not be just Jess who runs this, but have Jess do it sometimes and have another book coach do it sometimes, and have some rotation going around. And so I would love to have a bit of more diversity there than just 2 white 40-year-old guys who always do it. So I'm definitely, that's front of mind. But thank you. And we're working on it.
Okay, thanks.
Josh,
Hey, Gene, yeah.
can I, I'm sorry, I got a really sore throat today, but I'd like to share a brainstorm. So, so one of the things that, so I got this published from almost scratch. Not only this published, but an online course published, and people registered for it. And the knowledge to do all of this came from the masterclass. But the ability to get this done came from a separate accountability group that I'm in. I kind of lead that group, and I lead that group voluntarily because it's a way for me to stay accountable. So if you're, and I agree with this, all the knowledge is in the workbook materials that you provide, and any specific questions can be answered in the master class. People have trouble getting from A to B because they lack continuity, they lack accountability, and they lack anything that helps them create and sustain momentum to move forward. So the group that I'm in is a very diverse group, which means nobody's in the space that I'm in. None of the other people are even writing books, although some of them want to now. One of them is teaching people how to do classical painting. Another one is like a health coach. The other one is doing spiritual things and is in India. But we're part of this accountability group. And what we do is we always do on a weekly basis. We say, this is what my commitment for the next week will be. This is what I accomplished over the previous week. And then we not only say it in the group, we have to post it in our other Facebook group to say, and our messenger group, this is what we did. And then it goes really quick. We can have 10 people in these meetings. Everybody only needs to spend anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. And then if they have specific questions where they need feedback from the group, we're all experts in different areas. So we all help each other. Now, this is not a paid thing. It happened organically because I led another group formally, and then all of these people kind of clung on to what I was doing, and they just want to stay connected. And then I started using this community to help myself stay motivated. So I think something like that would be beneficial to a lot of people who don't lack the knowledge. They lack the structure, the accountability, and the momentum.
Yeah, because you're saying the reason you got the book done was because of that accountability group. That's what got it across the finish line, right?
I almost felt like I don't want to let that group down because I was kind of like the leader. And
Yeah.
I'm saying, okay, one of the things I did 8 weeks ago is said, okay, I'm going to do this. So I need to put a stake in the sand. My launch day it was a week ago. And then we have to put our planning calendar down. So I showed everybody, okay, so this is my planning calendar. And I always mentioned your group because the knowledge comes from your masterclass, but the behavior and the structure comes from me leading this group of people. And we're all on completely different paths, completely different journeys. But what we do is we force each other to make commitments. So somebody will say, I really want to do this, or I think I'm going to try to do this. And then what I will say is, we don't want to hear what you want to do. We want you to commit to what you will do. And then so it has to be measurable. What are you going to get done? I'm going to get 1 chapter written. I'm going to have my outline done. There's one person in the group who's actually writing a book, and he was inspired because I'm writing a book. So I'm taking your knowledge and adding structure to his journey and bringing him into this kind of sequence.
Mm-hmm.
That might be more valuable than just a book coach, because
yeah. What do you think would be the best way to organize that with this group? Would it be for me to make assignments and say, you 10 people are in this group, or just to say, we're setting up some accountability groups. If you want to be part of one, let me know, and then we'll help you to organize into your own groups? Or
your initial content was, I thought, perfect, but there wasn't, and this is not a criticism to you specifically, but there wasn't the leadership within the community that get people into it. And what I'm talking about is peer coaching. So I did a couple peer coaching sessions with Shlomo. I got on the call with Alenia. Susan and I have gotten on calls. I think both Shlomo and Susan have benefited from these calls, even though they were not. I mean, Susan can share experience.
I know Sue has told me many times that they're great. So,
but the problem is everybody else in this group seems to, well, first of all, nobody knows who I am. I'm just another student in the masterclass. And there's nobody in the masterclass saying, well, I mean, you said it a couple of times, but it's one of the ways that we do it in our other community is we have a lot of Facebook Lives. So we encourage people it's a concept that's called riffing. So for example, Alenia, if she's getting stuck, writer's block, one of the best ways to get unstuck is just a riff. Talk about it live, unstructured, get out of your comfort zone, and sometimes great stuff comes out. So we encourage people to talk about what they want to do live in the Facebook group, and then tag people who have had similar conversations with them, and then people comment in. And what that does is that brings people in the community closer together, where we feel like we're part of the same tribe. We're not just people who are in a class and you don't know me, I don't know you. So the people that I've spoken to, like Shlomo and Susan, and I also spoke to Kevin. So Kevin called me offline. He wanted to learn, and we spoke for an hour, right? So it's like I'm using a different type of coaching that I've gotten from like Tony Robbins and Dean Graciosi and Jeff Walker. And I'm taking all of this stuff that I've learned over the last 3 years, and I'm trying to serve this community, because the mindset that we've all learned is you have to serve a greater purpose than yourself. So whatever I can do to serve this community that I'm a part of, is the reason that I'm doing all of this. But from the leadership standpoint, which is you, just adding more pieces for people to connect to is going to run into challenges. But if you lead this group like I lead my other group, and then people say, okay, the value isn't it that this guy's going to teach me something. The value is now I feel I have to be accountable, not even to myself, but to the group, because every week we report, okay, this is what I committed to last week. This is what I accomplished. And this is what I commit to next week. And the way to maintain the momentum, if people in the group give me a thumbs up if they agree, the way to keep momentum when you're trying to do something as difficult as writing a book is small wins over and over again. So when you accomplish something, you finish something, you don't pat yourself on the back, you share it with the world. And then you feel that energy. It's the way that energy flows. You know, where focus goes, energy flows. And then through that, I think a lot more people will make a lot more progress. I mean, I thank you immensely for getting this published on Amazon. But I couldn't have done that if I didn't have the previous experiences I have in the communities that I'm a part of that have nothing to do with this. But we're in these groups to keep ourselves accountable. And we don't know each other. These are people I've never met face to face. I met them all online, these online courses.
Yeah. I would love to bring that accountability into this masterclass because I think that's a fantastic idea. Do you think, what size group do you think would be best? I mean, do you think it's better to do like a pure coaching where it's just one-on-one, like you've got an assignment, you've got a buddy, and it's just you and that one other person? Do you think it's a group of 3 or 5 or 10?
Yeah, I'm sorry that, let me interrupt you. I have a really
And I'm curious what
opinion.
everybody else thinks. If you want to just put it in the chat, you can put a number in there or something. But
I just wanted to point out too that Virginia's had her hand up for a long time. So
yeah, I'm going to her right after Jean. I saw that too. So after Jean, I'm going straight to Virginia. But
let me finish real quick. So I've been in the assignment type high-end coaching groups with Jeff Walker. It's $12,000 a year. You meet the same way. There's a coach and you have to do assignments. That doesn't work. I don't think that works as well as people who come and they're not being forced to do it. They feel accountable and it's kind of emotional. And I think the group can be any size because people will drop in and drop out. But what they want to know is that this community is always there. I've been doing this for 2 years for that same group and people come in and people come out. And so I wouldn't limit the size initially. I would just try to get as many people going through that, extracting value and getting things done. And I'll just
so maybe the way that we do this, and then we'll just end this discussion here, but I want to keep thinking about it and let's keep talking about it. But maybe the way that we do this is just to emphasize the importance of having an accountability buddy or an accountability group. And it just becomes something that Jess and I focus on and say, we need to get you paired up with somebody else, or we need to get you in a group. This is going to be important for you. And we just make sure that people are in that group or they're paired up with somebody. And like Sue said, she wants to be in a group of 5 or 6 people. Great. We can find a group of 5 or 6 people and put her in that group, or say, hey, there's this group. Here's who's in it. Would you be interested in joining that group? We can make the introductions. I'm thinking like when somebody joins the masterclass and they're new, or we can say, would you work better one-on-one? And if they say, yeah, I'd prefer one-on-one, then we can say, great, we'll find somebody else who is looking for a buddy and wants to work one-on-one as well. We'll pair you up with them. Anyway, just some ideas. Let's move on because we have other questions, but I really want to do this. I think this is important and key. And so I want to work on that. So Virginia, you've been patient. You got a question or a comment?
Hey, I put my questions in the chat.
All right, let's check those out real quick. Oh yeah, roadmap available to get the book done. So there is a checklist. So there's a checklist that I've been working on, which is kind of a roadmap, I guess you could say. So, but it's not finished. So yes, it's in process, but no, it's not finished. I'll share it with you, Virginia, so you can see what's there so far. Can we redeem our credit for the mastermind only for the months before July? No. Yeah, I understand. I think I understand what you're saying. No, it's, well, I guess there are two ways to interpret this. What I was saying with the limitation there is just that you need to get started on it before July. And I'll be flexible on this. I just don't want it to be an open-ended thing where people are coming back 3 years from now and saying, all right, I'm ready to join the mastermind. It's kind of like, gee, that was a long time ago. But if you say that you want to, let's say you want to start the mastermind in July or August or something, or September, great. Sorry, that was me. So I just need to know from you when you want to start the mastermind, and know that it's not like 2 or 3 years out, because I don't want to make a commitment to somebody for something 3 years out, because I don't even know if I'll be alive in 3 years. I hope I am. But I don't like long-term commitments like that, where I've got something hanging like, hey, I owe this person this thing, but they're not taking advantage of it yet, and it's hanging out there. So I just want to make sure that we kind of wrap it up sooner. That's the only reason I put that deadline in there. Okay. And then are you putting people together in the mastermind that have something in common? Yeah, so I kind of answered that question, but yeah, that's our goal, is to do that. We want to make sure that we don't want to have somebody running, we don't want to have like 3 people running $10 million companies in with a bunch of people who just started their business 2 months ago and have yet to make $1. Like, it's just going to be a mismatch, right? Because those two groups of people are going to have different questions, different goals, different objectives. And so we want to match people up with kind of like-minded or like stage people. Also, if we have a bunch of people in the mastermind who are like, hey, I'm already halfway through my book, but yeah, I want to join a mastermind and get it done, we'd put those people in a group that's different than people who are saying, I don't even know what book I want to write. I'm just getting started from absolute scratch here. We'd want to separate those people. So with the mastermind, we do want to cater to different types of situations that people might be in. All right. Does that answer all your questions, Virginia? Great. Elenia, you've got your hand up.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, great.
Excellent. So I just want to, I haven't read the email. I kind of like scanned it, but I haven't read the email properly, the one that you were explaining.
Yeah, it was a little bit long. Sorry about that. No,
that's all right. It's me. It's just, I've been busy these days. I just want to say to Jean, thank you so much for organizing these peer reviews. Have been very useful for me as well. I just think people are very busy. And another point, like for me, for example, I'm a slow person in terms of writing. Writing is not my skill. I'm much better in video or maybe public speaking, but writing is just, I don't know, my brain, I think I don't have enough creativity maybe, or just I'm not good enough for that kind of skill. So I think that if I have that push from someone, it's just going to put stress on me for writing, and maybe I'm not going to write as good in brackets, because I don't know if it's good writing for me, but I'm not going to write as good as I probably take my time. Does it make sense what I'm saying? So maybe like for this kind of activities like book writing, probably a peer review and peer coaching is just like, for me, it just adds a little bit more stress, I believe, because it takes a little bit more time than maybe other people that are already in their writing projects ahead of me. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So maybe for me, it takes a little bit more time. That's what I'm saying. I think it's just a little bit more stressful, a peer coaching kind of thing.
I hear what you're saying. And I've interviewed some people for the Published Author Podcast, authors who took 4 or 5 years to write their books. And they said, it was great. That's what I wanted to do. I took my time and I wouldn't have changed it in any way. Even if I could have written in 6 months, I wouldn't have. That's what I wanted to do. And that's fine. However you want to get to your book, that's your path. And so I think there's benefit to the accountability buddy system and peer coaching, but I think it would make sense, Elenia, for you to be matched up with somebody who's like you, who says, yeah, I don't like the pressure. I'm not trying to move super fast here. I'm taking my time. and match you up with another peer or a group where everybody else feels that way too, where it's kind of like, you know what, we're not going to be on each other like, did you get all your chapters done? And are you ready to launch in 90 days? It's more like, hey, what's your goal? What do you want to do in the next week or two? And you set the goal. And maybe you say, you know what, I don't really like writing, so I'm writing my book through video. And within the next 2 weeks, I will record a 1-hour video talking about one of my chapters. And then I'll take that video and I'll use that as my foundation for writing that chapter. But I'll record that video in the next 2 weeks. And that's it. You know, maybe that's how you set your goals, and maybe that's how that accountability group works. Whereas if we've got somebody else who gets in the group and says, I'm going to publish my book in 6 weeks. Well, yeah, we don't want to match that person up with you, right? Because they're going to be like, oh, come on, Elena, you can do it, 6 weeks. And you're going to be like, whoa, this person's overwhelming and I just don't have time to deal with them. And they want to talk to me all the time, right? That would be a mismatch. So we would want to be sensitive to that, of course.
Yeah, and you remember, like, we started this as a masterclass, and we switched this onto this book writing project, and people didn't really want to be matched and didn't really want to be involved in calls, weekly calls, and mastermind, peer coaching, or whatever we want to call it. So it can be challenging for some people. Like, for me, it's all right. I mean, I'm okay with talking to people. I'm an extrovert, and so for me, it's fine. I like building relationships, but not everybody's the same. So some people struggle with that.
Yeah, right. So everybody's different. We want to cater as much as we can to how people work. So great. Thank you, Elena. That's helpful. All right. Anybody else want to chime in? Barry, you look like you got something to say.
I did. Well, I just want to comment, Josh. Thanks for organizing this, by the way. I find the dynamic of seeing people is fantastic. It's much more community oriented.
I'm loving this. I'm kicking myself so much. I said this earlier, but like, I'm kicking myself. I'm like, this is so much better. Like, we should have been doing this months ago. I'm sorry. That's totally my fault.
Well, it's fun part of being all learning together. So I don't hear it as a problem. It's just we can learn. I belong to a couple of other groups, and I want to pick up on what Jean was saying, that one of the groups I belong to is a global group. So we got time zones we're dealing with, and it's all around Gallup strengths. If you know Strengths Finder, that's what started it, but it's gotten a much broader, and it's really become a very great community. And a couple things that have helped us. One is we have a monthly call. Two is that we have almost daily Yammer. So we've got a Yammer group where people are posting constantly, which I think the Facebook can take on the element of, but I'm not on Facebook a lot to begin with. And so I have to think to do it, whereas Yammer, it just shows up in my mailbox. I know I can set Facebook to do this, but we do a lot of different things, and not everybody is an independent coach like I am. Some are inside a corporation, so it's not like we all do the same thing, but I find the richness of the community. Size-wise, we're at about 15, 16 people, and over the 4 or 5 years we've been going, I think we've swapped out, we've probably got a core of 8 people that have been there the whole time, and then the others are more recent, but the most recent people we picked up was probably a year ago. So I'm just finding, I think I like the idea of groups like this. And what I'm noticing, we've got 10 people on this call in and out a bit, Josh, is that these are people that I have seen in the Facebook group and who've been on calls. I recognize everybody. And Amy and I have also been kind of encouragement coaching each other every couple of weeks, which has been great. She's fabulous. It's really been helpful to me. So I'm wondering if there may be like a natural, if you're setting this up with, I think it was like 60 or 70 people who started out. And if over time you're noticing that people are kind of self-selecting in or out, that for those who are self-selecting in, that we might start a group of our own, that this is, rather than go to the mastermind route, that this becomes one where it's like, hey, are we committed enough to create the structure and the accountability that Jean mentioned, and be able to point to resources. It's related in, but we've got kind of a little bit of an independent community that we're running. So it's just something I'm thinking out loud about, Josh.
Yeah. What would that look like in practice, do you think, Barry?
Well, I think leadership, as was mentioned by Jean, is an important thing. Somebody needs to help, like, for example, in our mastermind, well, I'll just call it the GSM. It's the Global Strengths Mastermind. I'll just call it that. We have typically 2 people will co-facilitate for a year, and they organize a meeting, they host it in terms of what the topic is, but they don't run it. It's basically their hosts. We check in with each other. But there's quite a bit of interaction in between meetings as well. So depending on what you're working on, and some people have actually done work together. So I just think the leadership aspect's important. Somebody's got to kind of, I call it being a grown-up. And somebody's got to be the host, organize when we're going to do things. You've been doing that, Josh, and I just maybe some role clarity about accountability and structure that I think is where we're missing some things. That's where Amy's been helping me.
Great. This is great input. And I'm going to take all this back. I'm going to talk with Jess and we'll figure out how to incorporate this in the way that we think best. And we'll ask for more of your feedback, but this is great.
And I'm curious, Josh, others here probably like Jean belong to other groups and have seen those work well. I know Amy's run a lot of learning cohorts. And so I'm just curious if anybody else on the call has seen a model that has worked well for you that we might learn from.
Well, I'm not quite sure what to add, but yes, there's always accountability with my learning groups, and I usually keep them relatively small. Probably to what Josh is saying for the size that he's thinking about for his mastermind group. But yes, everybody does make a commitment, and then they have to actually share what they did when they come back. And the commitment is usually not very big. It's I try to get everybody to keep the commitment small so that it's something that they can really do. And it's also kind of help to frame them so that it can be kind of fun and to do it. But that's just a really big part. And by the time you finished, you have accomplished a lot. So I do think those are just some of my thoughts.
Great. Thank you, Amy.
I've been in a number of groups over the years. I had a business coach one-on-one for 3 years, which was so beneficial. I've been in a couple of mastermind groups, of course, all been around developing my business, and then in one for my hypnosis. I know right now I'm so busy that I can't commit to, I'm thinking if I was in a mastermind group once a month, that would be all I would be able to do right now. So right now I'm committed to doing this now it'll be every other week, but that's about all I can put out there right now. I'm just so busy. I'm getting more and more clients, which is great. I'm not complaining.
That's awesome. Just wait till the book comes out.
I know.
Well, this is great. Does anybody else have any more questions about Masterclass, Mastermind? Any comments, suggestions, anything else that they want to say?
Hey, Josh, it sounds like you sent out an email on this. I've been looking for what I've been talking. I'm not seeing it. Do you mind resending that?
I will, yes. Yeah, it was interesting. I sent it out to everybody. I sent it out from my Gmail rather than from the email newsletter like I normally send out emails. And I didn't get a single response from anybody. So I was kind of worried. I was like, I don't know if that got to everybody, but I'll check. Can you put your email address in the chat, Barry, just to make sure I have absolutely the correct email address, and I'll make sure that you got it.
One other comment, Josh, on something that Jean said, and again, it wouldn't work for everybody because of time, but I've seen this work for lots of other things, is Jean's leading a group or teaching other people what he's learning is a very powerful way for accountability. We teach to learn. So I think that's something to consider. Again, not for everybody, but if we've got, who are you going to share this with, what you're learning and what you're doing, that I think is, as Elenia said, just talking out loud at times, or this riffing thing that Jean mentioned is really a powerful way to, you start to go like, oh yeah, I really do believe this and I know it and I can do it. I will do it. So.
That's great. That's great feedback too. Thank you.
did think of one other thing, and thanks, Barry. The whole time he was saying about our time together, it's been really mutually, it's been great. We have been accountability partners, yeah. So I did think of one other thing, and that's one thing that Barry and I are both kind of stuck on. And for me, it's like I've moved on from it, and then I've gone back to being stuck again, is the whole mailing list, lead magnet, convert kit, all of that. And oh my gosh, I would have loved to have somebody just either really coach me tightly through how to do that, or do it for me. And if I'd had a name of somebody and a reasonable amount of money, I would have done it, because I have spent so much time and I have made so many mistakes in doing it. And I have been, really.
Amy, you find me my audience and I'll do that for you for free. Because I do that all the time. I do ConvertKit all the time.
Yeah.
That's like my bread and butter. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Momo, I'm coming your way, dude. I'm coming your way. I'll help you with your audience.
Josh, I think I'm writing a different book now. Then,
yeah, maybe you just found your audience, Shlomo. Great, thank you, Amy.
Can I say something,
Elenia,
Joe?
yeah.
Oh, yes. So I think, yes, Amy, spot on. I think the marketing bit that we need to know, like, for example, a roadmap of the marketing bets and activities that we need to do prior the launch, during the launch, and after the launch, I think is so important. Because, I mean, I was a marketer before, but it's completely different launching marketing for a company rather than marketing for a book. We just don't know what to do, what needs to be done. So I think that's one of the things that it is really needed, especially if we want to be successful, if we want to sell books. And so that's my only thing.
That word roadmap keeps coming up. People keep saying, where's the roadmap? Where's the checklist? Where's the roadmap? And I am working on it, I promise. So I hear you loud and clear there.
So I just wanted to jump in. So one of the things that when I initially tried to get the peer coaching started, everybody has different expertise. And while I'm not an expert necessarily at marketing, I've been in the launch world for the last 3 years. I've been in Jeff Walker's high-end launch club. I've been in Knowledge Broker Blueprint with Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins. I've been a team leader to teach people how to launch. So I have that knowledge, and that's one of the things that I would share in a peer coaching group. And that's I've been selectively trying to just share things in the Facebook group. And I just want to let everybody know here that if marketing is something that you struggle with, I will just share more of what I'm doing in the Facebook group. And you can just ask questions or comments in that thread. It doesn't have to be a live call. It can just be, this is what I've done. This is how I sequenced everything together. This is my 3 pieces of PLC content. This is how I'm doing the launch. And you can just ask questions in that chat, so it won't be any type of commitment. So that's what I'll do, Josh, just to add to this community.
Great, thank you, Jean. And Jean, I just want to thank you. Like, I appreciate so much all the extra time and effort that you've given to this group and how much help you've been to other people. It's like I said the other day, I was like, I need to just start paying Jean because he's basically working like an employee of this group. So thank you so much for all that you've given and contributed.
Well, you have to give in order to get. That's one of the mindset things that Tony Robbins teaches. So I just try to contribute as much as I can.
Yeah. I found in working with Jean, I've now decided to have, I'm calling it a discovery guide to go along with my book. I never would have thought of doing something like that if I hadn't been talking to him. And his help has been invaluable to me. I signed up for his the free part of his workshop because I wanted to see how he put it together and how he ran it. Now, I'm not going to be doing business in China, but you can always learn something. And one thing that I'm very much aware of, became even more aware of, is the importance of, if you're going to be working with somebody from another country, you better know where they're coming from and you better understand their culture. It's about it's about quality, and it's about integrity. So it was very, very beneficial.
Thank you, Susan. By the way, Susan was a lucky draw winner. So I had
Yeah.
a lucky draw at the end of the event. So
I've sent him my information already.
yeah, look forward to it, Susan.
Can I just say something on
Sure.
the marketing bit? I think Jean has been amazing, and thank you so much for sending messages and tips and skills sharing. But one thing I think is important in the marketing a book is the timing. So when do we need to do A? When do we need to do B? And when do we need to do C? Prior to the launch and during the launch or after the launch. So it's the timing as well, I think, is important, because I've been reading and downloading checklists and marketing plans for books, and the timing is quite important. You need to have a kind of Gantt chart that tells you, okay, here you have to do this and here you have to do that.
Yeah.
So of
2
course
weeks
we
before
can
your
do
book goes
some
live, you
sharing,
need to
but
do this.
also-
Yeah.
Sorry, say it again.
Yeah. Like 2 weeks before your book goes live on Amazon, this is what you need to do. Yeah. that type
Exactly.
of thing.
Yeah. We just don't know that.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm going to share my opinion. And again, I'm not the expert on book launches, but I think it's what Josh said at the beginning. The marketing of you as an expert should have begun when you started this journey. And the key is that every time you put out a piece of, so Alinea, you're doing a lot of podcasts, which is awesome. And you're interviewing people. You just want to make sure that it's like what Josh is doing. He's doing a lot of interview podcasts. And then he realized with the book that he read, what was the name of that book, Josh? The Hook book?
Oh yeah. Hook Point.
Hook Point. You just want to make sure that all of the marketing copy is connecting with your ideal customer. And then every time you put out a piece of content, think about hook point. How does that connect with my ideal customer? And then at the end of every piece of content and in the description of every piece of content, have a call to action. Always try to convince people who consume your content to do something if they feel it's valuable. And you should be doing, that's just the behaviors that you have to develop before you actually plan the official launch. Like if you don't know when your book is going to be released, you just do the organic marketing and you just try to build your list, engage with the people who connect with you. And then when you know when your book's going to be published, that's when you sequence a quote unquote Gantt chart official launch. We call it a launch calendar. It's, that's when you put your launch calendar together, and then this is how I'm going to promote. These are the channels. This is my marketing blueprint. Everything's sequenced. So once people register for the book launch, whatever, if it's going to be an event or a webinar, you have everything sequenced. You're sending them a shot across the bow. You're building anticipation. People are starting to want to see what comes next. And then when it launches, it's a natural decision for them to buy. And that's in a nutshell how I'm approaching it.
And to your request, Elenia, this is how the new version of the workbook is being structured. It's set up on a timed plan. It's going to be in 90 days to publish your book, which doesn't mean anybody needs, I'm not putting pressure on you. That's just what I'm calling the workbook, so that if people want to move fast, they can move really fast. But if you want to stretch it out, you could stretch it out to 4 years, whatever you want. But it's going to be set up by time to say, all right, if you wanted to publish your book in 90 days, here's what you do day 1. Here's what you do day 2. Here's what you do day 3. And there's a checklist, and you just go through the steps step by step. Whereas before, the way I had the workbook structured was more, here's a section about writing. Here's a section about editing. Here's a section about this. Now it's more, do this first, do this second, do this third. So it's very sequentially laid out. So, and again, I want to finish this as fast as all you want it finished too, but that's the way it's being set up because of the feedback I've gotten from everybody.
Josh, which group gets the 90 days to publish your book? Do we get that?
Yeah, so everybody gets that. And again, that's just the title. It's going to be set up on a 90-day timeline, which I know is super fast for most people. But again, you can stretch it out and customize it to whatever you want. If you want to do it in 6 months instead of 3 months, then you just double all the time on it, or you do it for a year if you want. So it's a flexible book. You move as fast as you want to move. But if you want to move, I'm just going to talk in the book as though everybody's on a 90-day plan.
I really like that. That really appeals to me. So thank you.
Well, and I think that will draw people in because frankly, everybody, myself, everybody else, everybody is unrealistic about what it takes to write a book when they start. And so I think going out there and saying, hey, here's a course on how to get your book done in 1 year. Yay. I think most people are like, 1 year? I don't want to take a year to write my book. I want this book next month. So I'm marketing this as 90 days to write your book. But then the first thing I'm going to say in that workbook is 90 days is really fast. So you might want to stretch this out a little bit. And then I'll give them the reality check once they're in there. But yeah.
I just want to say I'm offering to those that are on this call today, if they would like one free session from me on hypnotic writing, I will be more than happy to do that for you. It is absolutely fascinating. And I'm telling you, when you learn how to do it, it works. It gets you through blockages, everything.
Thanks, Susan. That sounds like fun.
Oh, it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating. So, because I
Can
did
you
it.
hypnotize all of us over a Zoom call?
Yeah, I can do that too.
Oh, that would be interesting. How do we know that we're not already hypnotized by you? You could have hypnotized us and we wouldn't know.
Well, you'll know if you find that your bank accounts are empty. No.
Oh, then you must have done this a while ago, Sue. You know, so yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's what happened. That's what happened. Okay. That's why Josh has not wanted to have us see each other. You know, it makes it so much easier to hypnotize.
I have a question, Josh.
Yeah.
What's your take on Book Locker?
Book Walker?
Locker, L-O-C-K-E-R. Do you know about them?
I don't know it. I'm looking it up right now. What's your take on Book Locker?
Well, I just barely started looking at it. I have a Dr. Stephen Grinstead who's given me his story for my book, and he has been an author for a long time. He's owned 2 addiction centers out in California. He's been running global healing work for addiction. He's got a number of books, so he's been through the ringer when it comes to starting books. And he highly recommends the Book Locker as opposed to using Amazon.
Now, is this booklocker.com? Because I'm looking them up and it looks like they're maybe a hybrid publisher or something.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So they do ebook and POD publishing.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
And I know
yeah, so
with it.
So I don't know them, but so I can't really give an opinion, but
Okay.
I'm just looking through it real quick here. But yeah, I'm not familiar with them. They're not I can tell by looking at the website that they're not a huge player in the industry, but they might be great at what they do. I just don't know exactly what they do yet. So.
Okay.
By the way, I started using Gumroad for launching a book for another business I have. And it was very easy to set up, and you can kind of get followers, and you can even do a pre-order and all that, and it's super, super easy. You don't have to go through all the Amazon stuff. So I have basically a book cover there, and that's it. And what's going to be in the book, which like, I don't know, 300 words.
How do you
So
spell
it's
that?
a way to start. Gumroad. I'm
G-
going to put it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
So what's
Josh,
the
if
main
you're-
thing that you're getting from Gumroad, Shlomo?
The fact that they had the pre-order and very easy to set up, and I just needed something because I want to fund the book through the pre-sales.
Mm-hmm.
This is the reason I looked for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gumroad is a crowdfunding site, isn't it, for creative projects?
It's not crowdfunding at all. They're a payment processing system.
Oh, okay.
Is it just pre-selling? Is that
No, not at all. It's also for selling. It's just that
Or
they have the
selling.
pre-selling option. Yeah.
okay? So you can pre-sell or
people,
sell.
So people are not charged until a certain date that you say it's launched. I assume I can change it because I don't know if I'll really be on time, but I want it to be out there anyway.
Okay.
And there are already 3 sales. So you can also be very flexible and say, and I did it for until I launched. So I said, pay as much as you want with a minimum price of $199. Then you can write the listing price and recommended price, and it's very, very easy to set up.
And then I see what Gumroad does is they give you a platform to sell your stuff on. And then if they refer traffic to you, they take an extra 10%. If you refer the traffic there yourself, then you just pay the credit card fee, the 3% plus 50 cents or something per transaction.
This is my page if you want to have a look, kind of what you get there.
Okay. URL in the chat.
Yes.
Josh, have you heard of Mango Publishing?
I don't think I've heard of them. There are a lot of players in this industry.
No, I know there are. It's one Franklin Covey does that. They're doing a lot of work with their books through them. I was just curious if you'd heard of them. So I can talk to folks there and find out more about them.
Yeah, I'm looking at their website real quick. They look pretty legit. Yeah, they look like they're putting out good stuff. Or at least they've hired a good cover designer. I am judging them by the covers of the books.
Yeah.
Josh, can I ask a question? I had it the group, but I didn't get a reply on. So
Sure.
maybe you can help.
Yeah.
So it's feedback that I got from a client, and I trying to find out how will that get me to the next little step of finding my audience. May I post it maybe on the chat?
Sure.
It's over there.
All right. Feedback from a client. Help me make the next little step towards understanding who my audience is and how do I help them? What can I improve from his answers? What did you get? What I gave you?
That's his question. The first question I asked him.
Okay. First, we received personalized guidance on how to make our financial future clearer and more tangible. It was important to clarify what our assets were and fix objectives to achieve a number of goals, some of which we had not considered before. Question number 2, if you have to define what I do, how I help people, how will you define me? You help people to understand the power of taking a good snapshot to their financial situation and then plan accordingly. Question 3, if you have to tell about me to your friends, what would you tell them I'm doing? I actually told other expats about the work that I was doing with you. It was helpful to understand that you're not a financial advisor, but a financial coach. So how do you define the difference between a financial advisor and a financial coach, Shlomo?
So financial advisor, first of all, you need to be certified for that. And he would recommend certain stocks or assets for you, but he would also only look at, the rigid numbers of what you should do at this year. And they have all these calculators and stuff. While financial coach would look more holistically on your life goals and build a plan, a financial plan for you, but taking more considerations into account.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, and of course, this has been the long struggle, right? Is figuring out your exact ideal audience, because we know that you like doing the financial stuff, but it's who exactly do you target? Because there's so many different niches that you could go after, and then that would lead to different ways that you might do the coaching. But
Shlomo, I have a question. As a financial coach, are you a fiduciary?
I have to ask you, what's a fiduciary?
It means, so here in the US, financial advisors, they sometimes sell financial products, but they aren't required by law to look after your best interests. They just explain things to.
I'm not selling any financial products.
No, so a financial coach sounds like more what we would call a fiduciary, which gives you financial advice based on what's actually in your best interest.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So I think in the US, fiduciaries, Josh, you may know this, fiduciaries have to be licensed or certified, a certified fiduciary.
I believe so. Maybe
Yeah,
somebody else.
so
Barry's
if
nodding his
you're-
head too. So
Yeah, so if you're going for an audience, for example, Americans, and you're marketing yourself as a financial coach, you have to distinguish yourself between an advisor, a financial coach, and a fiduciary, because that's a place where people get financial advice in their best interest from somebody who's licensed as a fiduciary.
You.
Yeah, don't get me
Okay.
started on licensing and all that stuff. I'm kind of a keep your hands off and just let us do our business stuff. But the day they start licensing book coaches will be a sad day.
Josh, I have a question.
Yep.
When are you going to write a book on all of your podcasts that you've been sending us?
I just started thinking about that the other day because I've got over 50 interviews recorded.
Yeah.
And I'm having such a blast with these. And I'm like, oh, I need to go find a ghostwriter who can just take all these and turn this into a book. So it's on my mind. So we'll get there. Yeah.
Well,
All right.
I'd love to connect up with you because I think there's some distinctions about coaching that would be helpful, and especially if you are working with Americans. I just don't know about in other countries, but from what Jean mentioned about the fiduciary, or just if you're giving financial advice, specific financial advice, versus helping people sort out what's important to them and how are they going to fund their future, as it were. But part of what I'm hearing you say is, how do you help people stand in that desired future and achieve,
That's
and
right.
then how do they achieve it? So
It's
there
the
may be
latter you
some-
mentioned.
Yeah, I think there's some ways of framing that from a coaching standpoint, and what it is and what it isn't, that may be helpful to your audiences. So I'm
Okay.
glad to be with you, and we can trade off. You can help me get past all this ConvertKit and other stuff I'm stuck on. Because no, I'm serious, Josh. This is a thing Amy and I talked about. I got into the second part of the workbook, and then it's like, set up your ConvertKits, and I'm just like, man, that just sucked. That just sucks. I mean, no, it sucks energy. It just drains me. And it's like,
I hear you.
okay. And even
right.
just simple, something like set up I know it seems really simple to people who've done it, but for people who haven't, it's like, I think I'll just go out and work with some more people and network and teach my classes and just sit on and come up with more ideas for books and not make any real progress. So
This is great feedback. I will insert a part in the workbook there that says contact Shlomo for help on this if you want somebody else to do it for you.
I'm going to pull a Shlomo here. This is good.
But no, I mean, really,
it means
is
I'm not
good
a financial
feedback. I mean, it
coach
makes me
anymore.
think about,
That's right.
it makes
found
me
your audience.
consider whether to even include that in the book or just to mention it and say, hey, here's something you can do, but make it a little bit more optional. I think it really is key, but it's not essential. It's not as though if you don't do this, you cannot be an author. And so making people feel like they can't move on until they get that done might be counterproductive for a lot of people.
And I definitely fell into that trap of feeling like I couldn't move on. And so that's when I actually started writing, it felt so amazing. It was like, oh, thank goodness I'm writing something, you know. But the other thing that I got really stuck on that seemed to be important, and we were talking about it and everything, was this personal brand website, which I now have done. And I've got a beautiful personal brand website. And now I just am like, I don't know if I ever needed it really. You know, there's a part of me that is just kind of looking at it and going, they could have gone just straight from my LinkedIn articles to my landing page, to my mailing list. And I have a business website. Not sure I needed that personal brand website. Maybe I do, and it was a great exercise to go through doing it, you know. But that's kind of where I am right now. It's like, oh my God, I've spent so many hours on this.
Yeah, this is interesting. Because of course, when you write a book, it has to be generalized a little bit, where you say, here's my advice. And if you take a group of 100 people, this applies to 95 out of 100 people. But then you do have the 5 people that are the exception. But if you include every exception in the book and say, well, these people don't have to do it, then anyway, you end up with a lot of stuff for people to go through. So you kind of tend to generalize in your book and say, just do this. And then the 5 people who are like, well, why should I do that? You're kind of like, well, maybe it doesn't apply to you, but you don't necessarily say that in the book, right? However, in this kind of a workbook for this kind of situation, I wonder, I'm just thinking out loud, I wonder if there might be a place for that to say, look, a website is going to be critical for 95% of you. There's 5% that are the exception. Here's where the exception is. Unless you're in this group, you need this website. Because, for example, if somebody says, I want to leverage my book to get paid speaking gigs, absolutely 100% you need to have a website. Now, there might even be an exception there, but really it's going to be like 0.01% people can get away with not having a personal brand website and then still get paid speaking gigs. However, if you're not interested in getting paid speaking gigs, that's not at all on the horizon, then there might be an exception where you say, you know, this type of situation, yeah, you don't really need to have a website, or you don't need to have a website yet. Maybe it can come later.
See,
Hey,
and
Josh,
yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I get paid speaking gigs all the time. I don't have a personal brand website. I don't have a company website. Some of it's through other companies. Some of it's just people who call me up and want to pay me money to speak. And I don't mean to sound, I'm just saying, I don't think it's 0.1%. Now, again, maybe I'm unusual, but I just, again, there's some of these percentages I think may not be as tight as you're signaling that they are. So.
And that's
Could
what
be.
I'm kind of tossing.
You could be right.
Barry and I are kind of in a different situation than a lot of people in that we've had long coaching careers, long consulting careers, really more, and facilitation, coaching, facilitation, and consulting. And so our desire to write books is kind of built on something else than somebody else who's trying to start something up. We just kind of want to keep it going. That's kind of, would you say that's right, Barry?
Yeah. And yeah, so Josh, I'll tell you what drew me in the first place is I'm in my head, meaning I recognize I've been following, I haven't joined all the things that Gene has, but Jeff Goins been following his stuff and had some of his courses, Tim Grahl, Michael Hyatt. I mean, a lot of these, who's that? There's another one you've mentioned, but you know, I've lingered and lurked in some of their things and gone to calls, et cetera, and recognized, yeah, I probably should have this. That would be helpful, especially last year during major COVID stuff. But I really like your image of look at the center, ways you make money on that on the outside. So, and yet I'm, you know, a year later almost, I'm still like, I still haven't made a lot of progress. And part of it's getting stuck on stuff like the technical thing. But like Amy's saying, you know, the writing's not that hard for me. Credibility's not that hard. It's some of the, what I consider kind of back office operational stuff is where I get stuck. And I don't want to get good at these things. It's like, you know, it's like if I can just set it up or make it go away and it's easy to, you don't have to feed the hungry bear. I just soon spend my time writing and creating and not doing a lot of it. And yet I know it needs to be done. And I am a solopreneur right now. So and there may be things where you'd say, Barry, you got to outsource this stuff. And that's where I can help you is point you to people who can do that. And it's $10 tasks that you're taking on or $100 tasks, and you'd be better off doing other things. So, sorry, Amy,
feedback.
I riffed a bit there.
Now, and what I'm seeing with you and Amy is that you've already built platforms over the years with your careers. So you know a lot of people, you have a lot of connections. And yeah, admittedly, with the workbook in the program generally, I'm trying to help everybody. And so I am trying to help people who are starting from scratch, who don't have the connections. They're not going to get speaking gigs because nobody has a clue who they are. And I think for those people, like a website is essential. But yeah, I can see how in your situation, you would say, you know, I don't need that. And so I think, again, maybe that's where
what I'm saying, Josh,
disclaimer.
Yeah, what I'm saying, it's not that I don't need, well, how do I put this? Would I benefit from it? Absolutely. I agree with that. I'm just saying it's not been essential. And so that's the thing of like, hey, if you find yourself, and I'm just thinking about putting myself in your shoes saying, so how would I communicate with people like you? It's going, if you've got this kind of setup, you know, I've got, I don't know, almost 6,000 contacts on LinkedIn, a couple thousand contacts on Facebook, but I don't consider I've really got a platform. You know, it's not like it's all organized. And yet there's people who go like, yep, I know you are, recommend you, et cetera. And it would help. I mean, it's again, would it help? Absolutely. That's part of the reason I'm here. But is it essential? That's like, if you want to grow your business in a different way, yeah. You know, and especially Josh, as we've communicated a little bit about is I'm looking to be able to set something up that I can leave for a year to 2 years and have run without me being actively involved, which is another whole business thing, evergreen content kind of stuff. So I recognize you're working with a lot of different people, and trying to design a solution that meets everybody's needs is difficult. And hopefully this is helping you go, wow, no wonder it's so challenging.
No, this is super. I mean, this is super helpful for me. And yeah, everybody understands. I think you can't make everybody happy all the time, but we want to get as close as possible. And I think there are ways to do that. The workbook is designed to be, this is everything, but you might not need everything. So use the parts that are useful to you. We want to make it that way, so that it's flexible and can meet the needs of different people at different stages. But
yeah, Josh, I have just a small brainstorm idea.
Yeah.
Your content is, I think, extremely valuable. But as we're hearing from Amy and Barry, not everybody needs every little piece. So one thing you might consider is, for each module or each chapter, or each section, whatever you divide it in, have a self-assessment where we evaluate where we are in our business, because your course is for entrepreneurs. It's not just for people who want to write a nonfiction book. So everybody's at a different place. So if you had a self-assessment for Amy and Barry, if they went through that self-assessment, maybe they would have gone through the self-assessment and the answer would have been, you don't need to focus on the website. And if you could have had an assessment, like 4 questions that would have led them to that, that would have solved a lot of people's, what we call technical resistance, or they're being forced to use technology and to learn things that they've been working for 30 years, and now they have to learn this new technology, and it's technical resistance, and that's how people lose momentum.
Yep. Yeah.
And
I mean, that's what we're seeing, right? And it's a shame too, because it's really a small thing. And really it's one of those things where it's like, you know what, if this isn't working for you, skip it. No big deal. But I know that's not the way it's put in the workbook. It's more like, you've got to do this. You absolutely need this. This is my biggest regret that I didn't do this. So I've given it the hard sell. So this is great for me to get this feedback and see it from your perspective.
Yeah, the workbook is, well, here's all the pieces if you know nothing.
Yeah.
Now for each piece, there should be like at least one question to ask yourself, and then the answer will let you know, do I need this piece, or do I move on to the next piece?
Yeah.
And Josh, if I can just reflect, sorry to interrupt, Gene, it's that for you, Josh, this is small. For me, it's not.
Yeah.
And I know you hear that. I know you hear that, but I want to be clear about that. And there are, there's other pieces of this that, so I like Gene's idea. I'm envisioning, if it's not a assessment, it's almost like a decision tree or something that kind of, and at some point it's going to be like, hey guys, here's the voice of experience. It's saying, you can skip this step. You may not need it, but at some point, if you don't circle back and pick this up somehow, maybe the better way to put it, Josh, is around means and ends, is saying, here's the end in mind. Pick a date, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months. I don't think you should have a book that takes you longer than 12 months or whatever. Saying you want to have a book, and the book's going to look like this. And here's what it is. It's like, okay, so you can do all of this yourself. And here, if you want to do everything yourself, this program will teach you how to do it. Great. And it, by the way, is a means to a greater end, which is you want to have influence, you want to be able to build a business, etc. But we're going to do it through a book. What are those different steps along the way? You're going to need somehow to be able to have an audience, and you got to be able to gather that audience. Now, you can just do it through LinkedIn or something, but what most people find is you want to have one of your own, and that means an email list, and it means that you've got a website. You can hire somebody to do that. It's going to cost you this much. You can do it yourself. Here's the resources, but it's helping people understand, so you don't get stuck on, well, of course I have to do it myself. You can go with a publisher. You can go self-publishing. Here's the advantages of both. So I just think being able to lay out some of those choices, Josh, and then a person can decide, I think this is where I want to go. Now I'm going to go deeper. Is that helpful?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the analogy there is kind of like the general contractor versus the subcontractor on a house type of thing. I mean, some people build their own house. I would never do that. I would never touch any part of building my own house. I would outsource the whole thing. But other people say, you know what? I can be the general contractor, and maybe I can even be the subcontractor on some parts of this because I know how to install electrical systems or something like that. But yeah, some sort of decision tree, like you were saying, or something to say, as you go through this workbook. I mean, this workbook really is designed for somebody who says, I am going to be the general contractor. I'm going to manage this book. I mean, if you're going to outsource everything, you don't need the workbook. You would hire one of our other services where we get the book done for you. But if you're going to do the book yourself, which is what the workbook assumes, there's still going to be parts where you say, I'm going to be the general contractor on this part and outsource the actual labor to somebody else. But on this other section, I'm going to do that part myself, and helping people to understand which parts to outsource and which parts to do themselves. That would be valuable, right?
Absolutely. And in fact, to take your analogy, Josh, there's probably even a step before that, which is the architect, which is you're the author but not the writer. And so you sit down with somebody and you basically say, what kind of home or building do you want? And how do you, and lay out the plans. And it's like, okay, we'll turn that over to a general contractor. We'll build it, which is another whole set of services that perhaps you have or others you talked about that, man, they'll take care of everything, what you will get, but it's a chunk of change. And I think it's like building, it could cost as much as a house, but right. It's being able to say, and that's, I think, part of the space that Amy and I are in of speakers, consultants, trainers, coaches, more on the corporate leadership side. I know tons of people in this space and many people in our setting where we love to teach, we love to do the work itself. Writing oftentimes isn't the big issue. It's all the other stuff. It's the marketing. It's it's figuring all this stuff out that sucks a lot of our energy, and it's one of the reasons we don't get to it. And that could be another whole niche. I don't know if you want to go more that direction, but I don't think we're unique in terms of what we want to do, and we're places where we get stuck. And yet many of us, I don't think, especially if we're not a big brand already, can afford to go out and hire, just be the architect and then just go, I'm not a CEO of a Fortune 500 company where I've either got a marketing staff or, spending $100K to get a book launched. Yeah, I can do that. There's some of this, I'm funding it myself out of operations. So.
Yeah, for sure.
Just, I'm going to put my 2 cents worth in. I've been around a lot longer than all of you combined.
Oh, disagree,
I don't know
Sue.
about that.
I'm really well preserved.
I just hit 76, so I'm happy.
Awesome.
But I've learned, and I've been a nurse since 1965, and I've learned over the years, and particularly now that I'm doing this book, be careful what you ask for because you're going to get it, all right? And I've been asking, first of all, I knew I needed some accountability. I need some kind of help in putting this book together. And no sooner had I gotten the thought out of my head, literally on my computer, the information popped up about Josh. And I listened to him. And then I said, oh, I don't know if I can afford that. I don't have the money right now. I get off the computer, I go down in my mailbox, and what's in there but a check for the exact amount plus an extra $30. This has been happening to me. I've learned to let go of a lot of things.
That's your divine intervention there, huh?
It is, definitely. And that's going to be the last story in my book. But I started saying, I'm in a business group and I'm saying, I really need a good editor to go over these stories. No sooner had I said that when this woman showed up in our meeting and she joined the group, and she is an author and an editor, fabulous editor. And she's coming from the same place that I am. She's doing a beautiful job for me, and it's not expensive. So far, everything has been falling into place for me. And if I start to feel myself getting stuck, I automatically just sit back and relax for a few minutes. Okay, so what do you need to do here? Is this something that I can do, or who do I need for it? And if I don't know, inevitably they show up. I know that may sound woo, but it's working for me.
It sounds amazing, Susan.
Hi, I'd like to jump into the conversation because my situation is a bit different. I'm stuck currently, And it's not because I don't want to deal with it, or I don't know. It's more that what I'm selling is content. I'm not selling a process. So I understand that you say we need an email list, and we need a community, and we need a website. And my situation is that on LinkedIn, I was providing a lot of content. And that's why I started to grow my community and my audience. But then I realized that on LinkedIn, there are lots of competitors who are just sucking all the content. And I'm on by myself. I have 3 people working part-time with me. But basically, I spend 80% of my time doing the production, not the sales, not the thing. So I do protect my content. And when you were saying have a website with a hook, and then have the most people who subscribe to your newsletter, the better it is. This is where I'm getting stuck, because precisely I set up a newsletter that is dedicated to my really prospects, not to all the agencies that come and suck my content. So I was thinking, okay, I need to do my website, but how do I do this? Because so far, the newsletter, the people who are into my newsletter are kind invited by me, or I subscribe them by myself, and I'm on a very niche positioning. So I'm not so sure about, yes, I need a website, but the whole system with hook, automatic newsletter, I'm not sure how to deal with it.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like kind of the same thing everybody else is talking about, right, Dow? That it's kind of this question of, do I really need this, or can I get by and be successful without it? And yeah, I think it's a good question. And I want to make room for the exceptions. Dow, I would love to talk with you more about this one-on-one a bit, to learn more about, because I know a bit about your specific situation, but I'd love to dig into this one-on-one. Could we set up a time to do like a call and just work one-on-one through a bit of this?
Yeah.
Let's do that. Because I think we can dive into it, but we're a little bit over time here. And I think you and I could probably talk for a half hour just specifically about it. So we might as well just set up a time to do that and go through it, and then see what we can figure out.
If you're available tomorrow, it's possible tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll email you, and let's set up a time.
Okay, sure.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. I love how this turned into all of you coaching me. This has been fantastic. And I'm absorbing all of this. I'm taking notes. I'm talking with my partner, Jess, about this. We're going to work this all in. And I appreciate so much all of you being the guinea pigs during this first year as we've been working on this. And I want to make it worth your while. I want to make sure that you get what you signed up for. And so if there's any point at which you feel like I'm not getting what I wanted out of this, I want to make sure that that works. That's why we're doing these tweaks. This is why we're changing things up. But at any point, if you feel like it's still not meeting my needs, let me know. Let's work it out. I want to make sure it works out for you. And I'll spend time with you one-on-one, like I'm volunteering to do here with Dow, to make sure that that happens. So just once again, thank you so much, everybody, for being part of this and helping me help you.
Hey, Josh.
Thank you, everyone. Yeah.
I just want to thank you for your abundance and perseverance. I'm sure there's times where you're just, again, I sense you got a very open heart and you're just trying to help in every way you can. And it comes through very sincerely in what you write, what you share on your calls. So I feel very satisfied and grateful to this in this community that you're creating. So thank you for your leadership. It means a lot. So thank you for who you are.
Thank you, Barry. I appreciate that so much. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Hey.
Talk soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.